Hi, I'm Laurie Zerga, and if you're here, you've heard about the feminine power flow formula. Maybe you've heard me speak, maybe you listened to my webinar, maybe somebody shared it with you. And you're probably curious about what it is. Well, you know how you meet women who are very successful in many ways, but they feel scattered and overwhelmed. They actually get comfortable in the struggle. I've had several women say that to me. Like, I'm just comfortable in the struggle. And when things aren't hectic and chaotic, I think something's wrong. And that's really sad to me. I know that it can be very easy to feel that way and ultimately feel unfulfilled, like there's something else out there. And that's what feminine power flow allows you to do, is explore what else is out there. It's a tool, it's a set of tools that I developed. And I've been really interested in this for years. In 1994, I purchased a book called Working from the Heart because I knew there was a different way to do things. And if you step back and you think about it, our society expects so much of women. We're supposed to be sexy and appealing to our man. We're supposed to be nurturing and caring to our children. And then when we go in the business world, we're supposed to zip on our business suit and just let everything else behind. We're supposed to compartmentalize. That's what we're taught. And I believe this is partly because we've gone into a masculine defined system, because it's been only 30 or 40 years that women have been in the workforce other than nurses, secretaries, teachers, and wives and mommies. So as we moved into the workforce, we went into a masculine system. Now, that's okay, and we're good at adapting, so we've done that. But I think sometimes we lose track of who we are. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself before I go too much further. And then I want you to listen to what I have to say, whether you want to attend and participate in Feminine Power Flow Formula virtual training or not. I'd like you to really kind of hear this out. And you can always click on either register for the webinar or listen to the webinar recording that's on the side of the page if you really want to hear it in more depth before you make a decision. But let me explain. So I come from an Italian American family, third generation here in America. And I joke that I was raised really to be a wife and a mommy. And yet my favorite thing in the world when I was growing up, my grandfather had a plumbing company, and I loved going on rides with him and to business meetings. And he did a lot in the community and a lot more than the plumbing. He was an entrepreneur in true spirit. And it was really fun to go and stamp the flyers in the office if my mom was running an errand and dropped me off for a few minutes when I was 4, before I could even read. So I developed this love of business. But it didn't make sense to me to move into the family business because that was for the boys, right? And instead, as I was getting into my high school years, I thought I could do my own business. of some kind. And my frame of reference at the time was like an interior decorator, or maybe some kind of a little dress shop or boutique, a home goods boutique or something. And yet there were ads coming up. Women were starting to go into the workforce in what was male defined jobs. So I was watching that, and I even say the Angeli ad, I could bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan, was really popular then. So I decided to go into corporate because I thought that way I'll learn how to work like the big boys do. When I have my own business, I'll be successful. And I did that. And I got married and I had children because I could do it all, right? That was what the messaging was at that time. You could do it all. You could have it all. And it wasn't until my husband lost his job that shifted for me. Everything we focused on at that moment was to get him a job. And he got a job all the way across the country, far from where I was raised. And I quit my job, packed up the kids, and moved the family. And I realized when I got there, he was having health issues. He was so stressed. He was not good in new situations. He was smart and brilliant and really a wonderful man, but he was in a job that really he shouldn't have had. And that's what I talk about for everybody, is be who you are and align with who you are. And don't try to do something that doesn't align with you. And I believe that's really why he had health problems. But in any case, I had 2 young daughters that were 4 and 6. And one day we woke up and his throat was non-existent. It was like he had no neck. And dragging all over, going to doctor's appointments and things, worrying about the kids, worrying about him. I had a quiet moment that I realized I could support the family because I can. All of my ratings had been exceeds most in my performance reviews, but I had that mindset that my husband would be the primary breadwinner. And during that moment, if you ever remember having something happen that changes you to the very core, like something just rivets you, and you know something's going to change. So I ended up going back into corporate and getting a job, and he became Mr. Mom. And I climbed that ladder. Later, I left corporate and started doing consulting with other companies. My kids wanted to take cooking classes. I started a cooking camp for kids. That became a national company with still active contracts across the country. And then I realized I would love to share my message about how to really step into yourself with others. And I got that aha actually with my coach about 2 years ago, when I was really trying to get clear on my message about what it was that I wanted to do and how to complement it with business consulting that I had been doing. And I got the aha that there are many, many women who don't know who they are. And so I dug deep and I looked at tools I used when I was climbing the corporate ladder and when I changed from one role to another, when my kids were going away to college. Every time I used a couple of tools that I had developed for myself, it just made me feel easier and more relaxed about the change. And then I went and I interviewed women I used to work with in corporate and the women that I knew from my business, Chef K, or that I networked with, or that were in masterminds with me. And that's how I developed this formula, the Feminine Power Flow formula. So now I do virtual training, I do workshops, I do one-on-one coaching. And so that's what the formula is about. It's about getting to know who you are. Because who would we be if we tap into who we are and we bring that person into the world? So the formula goes through different tools, these 7 tools. The first one is to look at the wide range that we have access to. And we do have a wide range. And I'll ask you to just take a little imaginary journey with me to our ancestors. The men were out hunting and herding the animals and hunting them. And the women were back at camp. They were suckling a child, maybe taking care of an injured warrior or an elderly member of the tribe. Maybe they were gathering food, and when they gathered food, they had to know which plants they could eat and which were poisonous. Women were the first to really understand the use of herbs and plant material as medicine. And we also, and in that period, the women were also watching the children. And if the proverbial saber-toothed tiger came into camp, oh my gosh, the women could get rid of that animal and protect the camp. So when you think about that, that is such a wide range that we have. So one of the tools helps you look at the roles that you are playing in your life right now. Mother, daughter, employer, employee, manager, homeowner, event planner, bookkeeper, all the things that hold our life together. We do a lot and we forget it. And just putting it on paper, a lot of my clients feel relief. So that's the first step, the roles that you play. The second step is looking at the themes that repeat over and over in your life. For me, it was a peacemaker. I was the girl on the playground that created peace when there was bickering going on between the popular girls and the smart girls, or the smart girls and the not so popular girls. I was the peacemaker. In the boardroom, not in the boardroom, but in the conference room. If marketing and business operations and the legal department and the technology teams were all in the same room trying to develop new services and packages for clients, they could sometimes be in violent agreement because they each had their own terminology and language. Have you ever experienced that? They were saying the same thing, just using their terminology that each other didn't understand, and I could hear that. So peacemaker is one of mine. What are one of your themes? One woman in an event that I had started to cry when we talked about this. Thelma. She said, I forgot how much I loved poetry. Subsequently, she went out and took a poetry class. It nurtures her and rejuvenates her. What are your themes? The next are your priorities. I started to do this when I was with when I started dating after I divorced. What are your priorities, I would ask, just as an icebreaker. Health is a common one. Oh, great. What do you do for health? Sometimes there's a lot of stories and excuses. Oh, well, I belong to a gym, but I never quite get there. I never can really eat. I don't have time to shop properly, whatever it is. Are you in alignment with your priorities? And if you're doing something else, what is that something else? The first top one or two, you should be doing something related to that every single day. And if you're not, maybe the other thing that you're doing is a priority for you. Interesting questions, right? So from priority, there's the whole section around your inner beauty, and that gets into self-care and who you are. Because many times, well, let me ask you, who's the first person to fall off your to-do list? It might be you. And that's if you even made it to the to-do list. So what is it that you can do to build a relationship for you, to take care of you? Many women are giveaholics or helpaholics and don't take the time to really nurture you. And when you fall off your own to-do list, think about a friend that you may have that you set up an appointment with and they're late, or they forget about it, or they cancel. Well, after a few times of that, they're not going to be your friend for much longer, right? So you want to have a relationship with you. What does that look like? To be in relation with you, to be nurturing yourself, to care for yourself. You have an inner beauty and a strength that is absolutely amazing, and I would love to support you to tap into that. Now, some of you may have done some work on some of these areas, but maybe not all of them. Next is to look at your power. And a lot of people feel like power. I even was in a presentation once where there was a slide about power and there was a photo of a military tank. Well, to me, that's force, and that's not power. Power is about being authentic and strong and solid in who you are. And I like to look at water as an example of that. If you think of a raging river, that's probably the first image that might signify power for you. But think about a trickling stream. If you're hiking and you hear a trickling stream, does that not draw your attention? It certainly does. And if you come upon a still deep pool, that also can draw your attention. So sometimes we're a still deep pool, but we try to behave like a raging river, and it doesn't jive with us. And especially in the work world, we're trying to be masculine and push and push and push and make things happen. And women are much more like the flowers and the plants. The flowers and plants don't dig up their roots and move from garden to garden to garden to look for the honeybees and the hummingbirds and the butterflies. They stay in the garden and they tap into the soil and they absorb the water and the rain, and they produce their beautiful flowers and their scents that draw the animals, the bees and the butterflies, right? So women are a little bit more like that, and yet we have that masculine capability. So being able to balance that out a little bit more. And I think that's why our society is so confused about relationships, because we've gone in and we've drawn up that masculine energy. And the order of things has gotten confused. It's gotten, really confused. But I think there's another way that we can reconnect to that. And the result is that I think we can tap into abundance, we can thrive, we can find peace and joy and love in this world. Once you really know who you are, then you can start to dare to dream. Because sometimes we don't feel worthy of our dreams. There's women that just don't feel worthy of a dream. Or we're just so busy on almost the hamster wheel that we don't even think about what we really want. We can't even get through airport security unless we have a ticket with a destination in mind. And that's what a vision is. It may mean you may never get there, but it's the journey. And having a destination in mind makes it much easier to set your boundaries. Is this thing coming at me going to get me closer to my dream or further away? Does it align with the roles that I'm playing right now? Does it allow me to use my gift? Does it line up with my values and my priorities? All of a sudden, it's like if you start to use that as a filter, wow, right? So then you really get into the flow. That's what the flow is about. It's allowing things to be as they are. So anyway, that's the really quick rundown of the Feminine Power Flow formula. And I'd love to offer the virtual training to you. The virtual training is 8 weeks where we go through each module. And I told you there were 7 modules. And that 8th week is a wrap-up week and a time for Q&A and making sure you really have that information solid. And what's exciting to me is that when I originally did this, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, I didn't have the experience I have with clients. So this is a full upgrade. And up until now, I've been using the recordings from the first event and recorded video of the first virtual training I had. And I'm upgrading and doing it all live. So the value for that would be $9.97 for the 8 weeks to do a live group program. And what's super exciting is that I'm not going to charge you that. So what's going to happen is we're going to set up for the 8 weeks. And if it sounds exciting, go ahead and click the button below and go ahead and get registered. But let me tell you a little bit more if you're not quite there yet. So what's going to happen is that we're going to have these 8 weeks of live calls. They're going to be starting August 2nd, and they're going to be on Tuesday. So that's a Tuesday. They'll be the next 8 Tuesdays from 5:30 to 6:30, and they'll be recorded. So if for some reason you can't listen to them, you can listen to them on your own. And you also get homework to do journaling. It's really about self-reflection and getting to know who you are. So all of the tools come to you each week. And so you can practice those on your own, or you can do them ahead of the class, ahead of the call, and then go ahead and listen to the call and hear other people's perspective. And again, at least you'll hear the other people's perspective from a recorded on a recording if you can't join on your own. So that's what that is. And again, I'm not going to be charging you the value of the live group calls because I want to record it, and this will be a product moving forward. So before I go into that, I want to tell you about really making change in your life. there's two ways that you can make change. One is through repetition. And so I would like you to have a bonus of a guest pass to the live event, and that'll be in November. So repeating things over and over really helps to sustain change. And I don't know about you, but one of my clients, Jill, came to my event and she listened to the 8 weeks and she came to my first event. And she called me afterwards and she said, I never really told you what happened after I went to the event. And I want to report on that. And I want to report on what happened over the 8 weeks. Well, after the event that she went to, she went home and there was a check for like $3,000 in her mailbox, which was so crazy. And from somebody that had owed her money from about 3 or 4 years ago, and she had written it off as bad debt, thinking, I'm never going to get that. And that was in her mailbox. And on top of that, in the 8 weeks, she made the most income that she has made. So I don't know what will happen for you exactly, but I do know that if you don't take action, things may not change. So it's about taking that action. So it's great to envision and know what you would love, but that action makes it happen. And so this is one action that you might take to have what you would love in your life and to tap in and know who you are. So, so that's what happened with Jill. And Marla went home, and I had lunch a few weeks later with her and her husband, and she had been talking about the feminine power flow, and he said, I'm bringing on my MacGyver, and she's bringing on her feminine, and we're doing this thing together. Well, they had had a Victorian for 20 years. When they bought it, they had envisioned remodeling it, raising their kids. When they bought it, the kids were 4, 6, and 8. And now they were 24, 26, and 28. And they hadn't done anything but a little bit of plumbing and, and electrical, just so the lights wouldn't flicker. But they'd been dreaming and dreaming about it and doing research, but they'd never taken action. Well, within 9 months of her taking the virtual training and the live event, she and her husband together had the stairs repaired. They finally had the floors refinished. They stripped walls, repainted every bedroom, got rid of all the kids' junk, just put in the best antiques they'd been collecting, stripped all the outside of the house, redid the gutters, redid the porch, had the matching lathed banisters done to repair the old one, and the house is absolutely beautiful. So what is it that you would love, and how can you take action towards it? So that's some of the things that are happening with my clients. The second way that you make change is to have accountability. And so I offer a next bonus, which is an accountability partner, someone you can check in with about what you would love to do and keep it going so you don't lose track of it. One thing that just disappoints me is going to an event or listening to recordings or something and feeling like, oh, that was really good, but then it doesn't have a life of its own that continues. Well, by bringing an accountability partner, you'll be able to extend that. So the value for the weekend bonus and then the accountability, it's $19.97 each. So that's quite a big value. And you can see below that I'm not going to be charging that. So if you look below, you'll see what what the internet price is for this. And the reason it's this price is that I want to package it as the at the virtual training recorded rates. So you guys get a bonus of that if you take action right now, and it will be going up shortly. So if you take action now and stand in, and some of you might be saying, oh, there's a money issue, and that's okay. I have a payment plan. So if the money is an issue, I really want you to do this if you decide you want to do it. And again, it's about you making a decision of, is this the right thing for you? Sometimes there's an excuse or an issue around time. Well, the event is out in the future, so you have hopefully some time to plan for it. And then the virtual training, again, it's recorded, so you can listen to it when you have at your convenience. So at the end of your life, you can have results or you can have excuses. So that's one thing that can typically happen to people, is excuse after excuse of why not now. So if not now, when? I know when I launched Chef K, it was around the time that I was getting a divorce, and the safe thing would have been to sell the house that we were selling, buy a smaller house, and go get a job. But I didn't want to be on my deathbed going, I wonder if I could have done something. And right around that time, all the noise around nutrition and obesity and all of that was coming up. And here I had this amazing program. And so I could have put it on the shelf and just said, oh, well, but I went out there and I tried it. Did it happen exactly like I thought? No. But I did actually have some amazing things happen. Like I decided I was going to launch nationally and go big. And I thought, my brain thought it was going to be boys and girls clubs across the country because I had been doing local boys and girls clubs. But instead, during the process of rolling out to launch at a Boys and Girls Club conference, U.S. military youth programming called me and said they were coming out. One of the military branches they were coming out with a national healthy cooking camps for kids, a request for proposal. Would I be interested in bidding for it? So things may not happen exactly the way you think. They may be a little better, or they may be a little worse, or they may be a little better. And in any case, you learn lessons and it moves you forward, and you get more clarity around what that vision you would love is. And in the meantime, you just have fun along the way because you're doing what you love. So I know it can be scary and hard to make change, but that's one of the reasons you want to have an accountability partner. That's why you want to repeat these things and to have somebody who's done it. I've done it. I know how scary it is. And to me, I wanted to make change so badly that it gave me the courage to step forward with fear. Because fear's never going to go away. And that's what courage is. And in French, the root of that is heart. And that's really what we all want. We all want to be loved. We all want to be happy. And we want peace. So these are things that could possibly make your life more peaceful if you go into the flow of it, if you make a decision and a stand. So I'd love to have you join me. Click on the button below, and I hope to hear you on the calls, and I'd love to see you in November. There's more information on the page. It's going to be in Sonoma County, Santa Rosa at the Flamingo. and it's a resort and spa, so you can even add massage appointments to it if you'd like. There's a gym, there's hiking trails. It's a lovely space in November, and I would love to see you and meet you in person. And some of you I already know, and I love seeing you all the time, so it would be special. So please click the button below, and I hope to see you. Thank you.